Okay, so I'm gonna quickly do this before I eat dinner. But today, MLS have just announced their season opener for all 23 teams, and just to make this clear, this is not a preview video of all the season opener game, but it's just more of a quick reaction and talk about where each team is gonna be playing their home opener. And notice how there are also some crazy dates in terms of some teams' home opener. For example, Montreal, FC Cincinnati, they won't have their season opener until April, and the Timbers they won't have their season opener until June, which of course explain why exactly they have their season opener so late into the season. But the season, of course, will start on March 2nd, uh, which is 1 days before the day that it started last season. Last season it started on March 3rd. And the first matchup will be between the Union versus Toronto. And also, I think just like last year, there isn't really a matchup where I know MLS 2 years ago they did this where they had one matchup on a specific date, and that's like the opener, and how they had a matchup like on Friday or Saturday, and that's kind of like the opening ceremony of the MLS season, or more like the kickoff series of what NFL is doing. But unfortunately, for these last 2 years, they're not going to do that, and that each team is just going to play on the same day. So the Union, of course, will start the festivity of opening weekend with them playing against Toronto FC, and then Orlando City will be taking on NYCFC at 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. I believe this matchup a couple of years ago it was the same matchup between both of these teams in the home opener. And then you got the Columbus Crew take on the Red Bulls at 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. That's the rematch of the Eastern Conference semifinal from last year. Then you got FC Dallas take on New England Revolution at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. At 6 p.m. Eastern, you got Houston Dynamo take on RSL. Same time, it will be the Rapids taking on the Portland Timbers. So the Timbers, kind of going to talk about why exactly they start their home opener so late into the season is because they're doing their renovation in terms of their stadium and expanding that capacity of Providence Park to 25,000, and they have 12 straight road game to start the season, which is a record by any MLS team. So at least they get their 12-game road trip start with a relatively easy game. Although knowing the Rapids of what they did so far this offseason, yeah, I don't know if it's gonna be a easy kind of road trip. I don't think we should take the Rapids very lightly this season. And then LA will be playing against the Fire at 8 p.m. Eastern. Seattle will be playing against FC Cincinnati. So for the second year in a row, an expansion team will be playing against the Seattle Sounder, and for the second year in a row, it's going to be an away game at CenturyLink Field. Last year, LAFC played against the Sounders, and they won 1-0 against them. So, no pressure, FC Cincinnati. Hopefully, you will do the same thing that LAFC might do. And then at 10 p.m. Eastern time, that's when my Quakes take on Montreal. I think a couple of years ago, we played against Montreal early in the season, and I think we won that game 1-0, and that was also the game where there was that cheeky kind of little chip by Annabelle Godoy, and they did that hype train celebration that is just, it's cool as hell, and I wish they could have added that in FIFA 19. But yeah, we're playing against Montreal for our season opener, and then the very next day on Sunday, you got DC United versus Atlanta United. That is certainly going to be a very tasty kind of matchup. And then you got LAFC take on Sporting KC. Again, the Sunday matchup are usually the marquee matchup because I'm assuming both of these games is going to be on national television. I think this is probably going to be on ESPN, and this one is probably going to be on FS1. And then on March 9th, you got the Chicago Fire take on Orlando City. That's the Fire's home opener. Then the Revs, of course, take on Columbus Crew at 2 p.m. Eastern. RSL home opener will be taking on the Whitecaps. And then moving into the 10th of March, which is another Sunday, You got NYCFC versus DC United, and then you got Sporting KC versus the Union, and Atlanta United versus FC Cincinnati. So, FC Cincinnati's first two match is against Seattle and Atlanta. And it doesn't get easier for them, as I will tell you later on in this video. And then on March 16, the Red Bulls will be taking on the San Jose Earthquakes, and this is the only matchup where there is a TBD. They don't know exactly what time that game is going to kick off, but it's going to be kicking off on the 16th, which is a Saturday. And I think the good thing about this is that at least the Quakes are playing some of the hardest team early in the season. I mean, usually I prefer us facing tough team like the Red Bulls, for example, early in the season, and just get those hard match out of the way, because if this happened late in the season, like what happened last season where we had so many tough matches late in the season, and I know that really didn't matter either way because we had the worst season in our franchise history, but imagine if we were in a playoff hunt and how we had that murderous September row that we have to go through. Yeah, that is the disadvantage of not playing tough opponent early in the season, and that it's better to get those opponent out of the way so that maybe the schedule in September will be much easier. And like I said, today they only announced the home opener for each team. They didn't announce the full schedule, and when they announce the full schedule, I will make a video about the Quakes full schedule and also make a separate video about some of the marquee matchup that's going to happen this season. And then on March 17th, which is a Sunday, TFC will be playing against the New England Revolution. That, of course, is TFC's home opener. And then FC Cincinnati will have their first ever MLS home game against the Portland Timbers. So Cincinnati will be opening their first free game against Seattle Sounders, Atlanta United, and the Portland Timbers. That is all three teams that made the playoffs last season. And that is three of the four teams that are champions of MLS in the past 4 years. Welcome to MLS, FC Cincinnati. Step right up, as you are going to be facing an absolute bloodfest of a start to your MLS career by playing three teams that is going to potentially murder you. But in all seriousness, I think, like I said, as much as I know FC Cincinnati fans are not happy with how tough the schedule start for them is, the good thing is they get that out of the way, and that when they do get that experience, maybe they will be a little bit better in terms of as the season goes on, and that once they got rid of all those tough schedule that they have in their season, then maybe they could show some competitive sign. But right now, it looks like FC Cincinnati is going to probably get off to a very slow start. And then heading into April 13th, Montreal, of course, will have their home opener against the Columbus Crew. And I think on one of the News of the Week episode, I talked about how Montreal is having their first ever home opener at Saputo Stadium. Usually, whenever Montreal have their home opener, it's at the Olympic Stadium because it's an indoor stadium, and Montreal in the winter is really cold. Even in March, it is incredibly cold, and it's kind of baffled me why exactly they decided to have their first ever home game at Saputo, even though March is going to be really cold. But it looks like they're just going to play in April, and I'm not quite sure why they decide not to play at the Olympic Stadium. Like, why couldn't they just keep their tradition of starting the season at the Big O, as they call it in Montreal, and don't have to wait till April to start your first ever game at home at Saputo Stadium? And then, of course, oh god, I think this is actually wrong. Let me just fix this for a second. So this is why exactly you should never make a video when you're very close to dinner time, because you're hungry, and when you write things on the board, sometimes you make mistakes. And that's what I did with this, is that I actually put FC Cincinnati and the Timbers on the same day on March 17 as April 13, and basically I put them repeatedly. But instead, on April 13, it's actually Minnesota. They will be taking on NYCFC, and this will be the first ever game at Allianz Field. And Allianz Field is definitely ready to host an MLS game, and I think really the only reason why they decide to hold it a little bit later than usual is because Minnesota in March is still very cold. It's pretty much similar to the Montreal situation where, it's very cold in March and you don't want to just play a home game there. But, certainly cannot wait to see that stadium. And I actually am thinking of going to Minneapolis this year and go visit Allianz Field, because that stadium, my oh my, it is absolutely lit. And that's no pun intended in terms of the new stadium and the exterior of the stadium, but it is just lit as hell. It is one of the best, if not the best stadium I have ever seen, an MLS stadium that has been built. But Minnesota, of course, will be taking on NYCFC, and then lastly, the Timbers, of course, will be playing against LAFC, and that's going to be all the way in June 1st. And like I said, the reason why Portland is playing their first home game in June instead of like maybe in April or March is because they're doing the renovation and expanding their stadium to 25,000, and that June 1st will be the first game and will mark the end of that 12-game road trip, which is a record in MLS. But unfortunately, their first home game will be against LAFC, which is definitely not going to be easy. So, yeah, that is pretty much it for all the season opener for all 23 teams. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of the season opener? Which one is the most tasty matchup? Which one is the most marquee kind of matchup out of these 23 season opener for each team? But yeah, let me know in the comments below. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash that subscribe button, and yeah, I will see you guys next time.